November tour for Friends of Wheeling, a virtual tour because of COVID. It's raining a little bit, so we'll go inside real quick. Just a little commercial message. Almost directly across the street is the Mother Jones house, and they'll be having a fundraising auction later today. With me is Sorrel Venter, and he and Becca Corellis, who is just inside out of the rain, will be leading the tour today. So let's proceed inside.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And let's see this.
The architect on this building was Frederick Ferris, the same architect who designed many, many buildings in Wheeling, including the Mount Carmel Monastery. The contractor, the general contractor, was Ralph R. Kitchen. He's kind of my hero. He built many of the very substantial buildings in Wheeling, including the Capitol Theater, the Stifel Fine Arts Center, what's now Triadelphia Middle School, and on and on and on. So this building was built to last, not just a 100-year building, but maybe a 500-year building, if not more. Okay, so we'll move on up into the lobby area.
Okay. Let's see. There's two sets of stairways. Okay. Beautiful lobby.
This building is on the same site of a former Scottish Rite Cathedral that was built in 1906-07. Here's a picture of what it looked like. It was a 3-story building, and they say that when it was built, it was one of the finest in the entire country. Unfortunately, it burned to the ground in 1915, but then they used the same location to build the current building. And that's the end of my background history. So now we'll get on with the tour. Sarah?
I am very, very excited to share this building with you. I have been working in this building for the last 8 years on and off, various aspects outside as well as inside. And it's been incredibly frustrating that I could not share the beauties inside this building, which most people haven't seen firsthand. And I've had to swallow all that by myself and talk about it without putting people in here. I'm excited to show this to you today. And I think once we've looked at the wonderful plasterwork above us, and we've imagined just the hours and days and months that craftsmen spent manufacturing this plasterwork on site, on top of this beautiful imported marble, and we've appreciated just exactly how much that took. And we again appreciate the condition that it's in. It is in pristine condition for its age. Absolutely remarkable that we've not seen a major degradation. If we look at the marble work, we'll see the slight discoloration, mostly due to smoke and aging and environmental effects over the years. Very superficial and very easily rectified, and I presume it will very soon be rectified. It will be cleaned. If we look at the floors, Jean alluded to the fact that the previous building built burned down, and as we walk through the building, you will find that this building was built like the proverbial brick shithouse. I mean, it is concrete and steel, and even the firewood side in any one area, there's literally nowhere for it to spread. They definitely did it with that in mind. And it's also the reason why, as Jean said, this is definitely a potential 500-year building instead of a 100-year building. This was meant, and it was built with prosperity in mind. We want to start, I believe, in the library. We pan around. The library is to our left-hand side, and I'll lead the way.
The building was originally named the John W. Morris Memorial Scottish Rite in memory of one of the early, very prominent members of this local organization.
Wow.
This looks like something out of Harry Potter, doesn't it?
Isn't that something? Can you imagine relaxing with a fire roaring in the fireplace and all of this knowledge surrounding us? We are so absolutely spoiled today that the knowledge today we carry around in our pockets, and all the knowledge is available. 100 years, definitely a different story ago, it was not available, and this was a source of knowledge, especially specialty knowledge, and for this organization. Around us, we see not only books pertaining to knowledge for this organization and for historical figures, but we also see pictures of prominent people involved. Becca, what are we looking at here?
I think this is a collection of photographs from right after the building was built. And so it just shows the various rooms, what they looked like. They had some nice palm trees in the entrance area where we came in. I know Jeffrey's talking about bringing palm trees back. And also of interest, which no longer exists in the basement, is the bowling alley here on the bottom left, Joanne, if you want to show that one. That was removed at some point and turned into a meeting room. It is no longer, but I'm sure there was a lot of fun bowling in the basement by the members.
A couple of things of interest I'd like to show. The color of the wood that you see today would not have been the original color. It would have darkened due to the aging of shellac, when that is cleaned up today with denatured alcohol and abrasion, you will find that the wood would lighten up quite a bit. The next thing to note is the glass windows. The cracking that you see in the glass was not designed that way. I believe correct, Becca?
Most likely, yes.
These were, in fact, repairs. What would happen in the past is you would get a crack, either due to atmospheric conditions or climate conditions, and instead of taking out the whole piece of glass, a little piece would be put in without removing the rest, and that would be annealed with a new piece of lead. Very interesting, of course, and then of course we've obviously lost some of the stained glass. These beautiful old steel casement windows are in still very, very well conditioned, very, very good condition. And a little bit of oil, a little bit of TLC will bring them back to original condition. Above you, we see a very ornate casework made from plaster of Paris. And I know this to be the fact because I actually repaired this section. If I showed you, this piece was virtually non-existent. About 6 years ago, we repaired a whole section here that had water damage. That was a flood, or actually a long-term leak from the women's restroom right above us. And that ate out all of this plasterwork, and we repaired this several years ago. And let me tell you, it's an absolute pleasure looking at the circumstances and the surroundings. It is a real pleasure. We did our best to match the paintwork at that time, but obviously, if I couldn't even dare to tell you how old the original paint is. There's obviously a little bit of a maintenance and an upkeep on the paintwork would be well called for, and we'll bring it back to a new life.
I don't know if the video shows this very well, but from here in person, you cannot tell the difference in the repaired section and the original section. So well done, Sarl.
So it was a combination of mold work to make a mold of the existing pieces, and the bottom molding and the top molding was drawn, which means that you made a knife to replicate the existing molding and then drew that on the table in plaster of Paris. Procedure that I'd like to share with you at some stage, and that was then mounted to match the existing profiles. A lot of very interesting, visiting the Smithsonian in Washington, I've noticed where they're very similar. If you look at the outside here, this looks like stone. It is in fact plaster that has just been drawn and scribed to make it look like stone. So this is not actually stone, it is meant to look like stone, but it's not stone. In the Smithsonian, I've noticed that they've aged the color somewhat more, and where this is a natural aging from dirt, they've sort of exemplified that a little bit more, or accentuated that a little bit more to make it stand out a little bit more than that. All of this just reeks with character. I mean, just look at that. The world as we knew it then.
Was it spin?
Yes, the known world.
Copyright. I don't see a date. It's Edinburgh.
Awesome. Okay, shall we move on?
The heat in this building was provided by radiant heat through boxes that you can see here. The radiators were actually encased so you wouldn't be seen. We would want none of that vulgar look inside here. It was all nicely hidden, and you had this nice radiant heat coming in here, supplemented of course by the fireplace, which I'm sure on social nights were, in this case it was a gas fireplace. I do not know if the original was a wood fireplace or not. But let's continue the tour, and perhaps in order to keep things from wandering too much of the building, let's go directly up to the women's meeting room. What was that called? Was that a meeting? Women's lounge. I'm sorry, the women's lounge. Yeah, I'll leave the way.
Of course, the Scottish Rite, the Masons, was an organization for men, but there was an auxiliary, I believe, called the Eastern Star.
Oh, we did not get this light. Rebecca, do you have any idea where the light is? This is just yet another lounge. No, I'm afraid not. It's complicated. Oh, there we go.
Got it.
There we go.
Ooh.
This was just
Look at this.
yet another, I presume, a waiting area before meetings took place. Did not know much more of the history of that. All I can see is finger stitching to do the necessary repairs. This would be a casting and a replacement. And this would be composition ornament, which is a combination of glues and felt that was pressed into a mold to make these ornaments. And today a mold of this piece would be made, and then you would do a casting and reattach it on the side. Stop me from meandering too much. I'll do this all day on.
Yes.
We're going to move on. Let's move up to the women's lounge. Note the staircase, as firm today as the day it was made. Absolutely amazing. You can see somewhere where footsteps were worn out over the period of time, but for the most part, virtually intact the day it was made. The very surface scratches today could be and probably will be honed out to get you back to a fair surface, but it's simply maintenance. There's nothing structural that will need to be repaired. And that brings us to the women's lounge, which in later years was also a meeting room for many different organizations.
One of the things I like in this room is the series of photographs that did hang on the wall before the repainting was done. This shows the various phases of construction and is clearly marked, each one is clearly marked our kitchen company. And you may also notice the original rug on the floor.
Amazing.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
This area had a lot of plaster damage, and I noticed from 6 years ago that we have yet more damage starting. I'm noticing this today for the first time, so whatever caused the first damage is still present. I'll have to look at that right away and figure out what's going on there. I haven't been in here in a long time.
You're not often in the ladies' lounge.
No, that's true. Look at the level of repairs on these windows. Same casement windows, and see yet much more that need repaired. And because this window is protected from outside, we know that it's not stones or anything like that hitting it. It's simply environmental and movement. Probably something to do with the heating expansion of the lead and cracking the glass over a period of time. Did we have light back there, Becca? Let's look at the ladies' bathroom quickly. I'm going to stand aside so you can view in there. You can see not a whole lot of capacity. Obviously, as Jean said, there were less women visiting here than there were men. So this was not made for a huge capacity. Typically in these old buildings, the drainage lines for the sewer and the get clogged up. They are cast iron, and the cast iron over a period of time inside the walls degrade to the point where they start leaking inside the walls. The natural culprit that you would think of to cause a leak would be the water supply, but in this case it is the wastewater inside the walls that degrade, and it gives you a low level of leaking over a very long period of time, and it's very, very difficult to find because it's not a gusher, and they cause the most trouble to recognize and to repair. Of course, you have to get pretty intensive into the walls to do the replacement. Perhaps let's go down back to the first floor, and
Well, while we're here, shall we see the ballroom?
we can do that, except
Yes.
that that'll give us 2 flights up the elevator. Did you want to do that? Up and down again?
Oh, I thought the ballroom was on this floor.
No. Oh, the ballroom is close enough. You're right here. Quite right, Jean. Here is the kitchen area that services the ballroom. Obviously, if you need to serve a lot of people, you're going to need a lot of space. Very interesting to notice the intricate ductwork here. There is probably a conversation for another day and a tour of utilities by itself, which is incredibly interesting. There was a very intricate system of air movement from the basement to the roof, through circulation through the whole thing, through a huge chiller. The infrastructure for this and the mechanism of this is intriguing, absolutely intriguing. I'd love to share that with you on another day, but for the moment, just stare at it and wonder, and we'll discover that on another day.
And of course, keep in mind that this was constructed over 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
So they were pretty smart guys back
Absolutely.
then.
And we might have lost something in the meantime, I'm thinking, instead of gaining.
All right, his car.
Look at the size.
Yes, and I've heard that it would seat 1,200.
Amazing.
And then, of course, there's a little balcony area if you wanted musical company up above, and the important people seating here.
And
on
the
lower
entrance
level.
to the balconies in the kitchen. I
Yes.
showed that to him.
Yes, yes. So if COVID goes away, and if we have an annual dinner for Friends of Wheeling in May, we have already booked the space.
If you look up here, look at the structure. This is all cast concrete that supports the next floor. Totally overdone, and the reason why this again is a 500-year building instead of a 100-year building. Very, very, very well constructed.
And at the time, there seemed to be a lot of fear of fire.
Yes.
And buildings were built
Absolutely.
with fire suppression
Yes.
in mind.
Very large windows, all which are due and is slated for restoration. The original windows will be rebuilt in a road fashion. There are 150 plus windows that need to be restored that way. So the same system will be followed for each, all throughout. A crew will be put together to do the windows one at a time and just keep on working on them.
And that will be done on site?
Yes, on
Yes.
site in the basement. And again, the basement is another tour that I'd love to show you at some stage. A good workshop is going to be built in the basement to facilitate this and other work.
Okay.
This is probably as much as we're going to have time for at this stage.
Well, Becca called the elevator, so let's go up to 5.
That sounds great.
Yep, there's our elevator.
Okay.
There are actually 2 elevators, a passenger elevator and a freight elevator to the right of this one. The freight elevator is being refurbished as we speak. And when we do our basement tour at some point, we'll be able to see the mechanism for
Yes.
that, which is truly impressive.
It is amazing and still functioning. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's a treat to operate. While I was working on this building, and it was still operational. and it takes quite a knack to stop it at just the right point. Quite fun.
I think this is the most amazing room that we'll see on this tour, and this is the auditorium or the theater.
Are you ready? Hold on to your hoses.
Ready? Look at this theater.
That is not what you would expect on top of this building.
We're on the 5th floor.
And above us, a balcony, seating quite a few people. Very steep seating, as you can see from this angle. Quite intimidating if you're up there, looking down and walking down. It almost feels like you're walking down a stepladder. It's very, very steep.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
I haven't been up to the balcony area.
You're right, it's a wow.
Now, do I remember correctly that you have done some repair work already in here?
Yes. So this bulkhead on the right-hand side was virtually non-existent. It was completely eaten away by, and this pure Egyptian right on the corner here, right above me, it's about 3/4 rebuilt. It was damaged at the same time. So we had to resculpt the face and repaint the face. It was done as well. And then we had huge scaffolding up here to reach the ceiling. The ceiling was completely flaked and hanging down in shards about 2 feet down. And we did a preliminary scraping, not a replastering as I'd hoped, but at least a scraping and a replastering to bring it back to civility. What a space. Absolutely amazing. The amazing thing behind us is all the drapes for the scenery, and there are hanging above us so many scenes in canvas.
So like a fly system in the Capitol Theater.
Exactly correct. And the switchgear in here for the stage is also absolutely amazing. I don't know if there's any lights in here. I hope there is. No, I don't see any.
Oh, let's see if, well,
It's a little dark.
it's a little
Amazing,
dark, yes.
and all still functional.
I don't know if you
All
guys
of
can
these are
see it.
lights for the stage, the mechanisms, the automatic mechanisms for the stage. How are we doing with time, Jean?
Oh, we're 20 minutes, so we're good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
20 minutes to go, or are we in 20 minutes?
No, we have taken 20 minutes.
That's
as well.
amazing.
Yeah.
How much time flies when you have fun.
Well, they can see the little bit better here.
And a view out the window might be worth looking at.
Yeah, when we find a window that I can stand by, yeah, right here. If I can get there.
The next one might be more open to you.
We're gonna go look out the window. You can see the Cathedral of St. Joseph in their office,
We
old
have,
school
at 3
building.
different occasions, had occasion to work at the top of this building from our 110-foot lift on the outside, the one we call Giraffe, for good reason. And the view from up here is absolutely spectacular.
And again, we're on the 5th floor, but each floor of this building seems to be taller than a standard
Yes,
floor,
yes,
so,
it really
so
is.
we're pretty far up.
Yeah.
And the detail even here, like look at the sides of the seating rows. Just absolutely beautiful.
Yep. It's beautiful.
The safety of the building is also very spectacular to me. We have a staircase on this side of the building going down all the way. We have a staircase on that side going down all the way. And in the rear of the building, there's yet another staircase going down. So for the size of the building, there are 3 staircases plus the elevator shaft going down. And again, safety-wise, fire-wise, they were very, very aware and very careful about that. So much history here, so much to talk about. Never mind symbolisms, etc., but there's just so much architecture here and so much engineering and so well done to see it in this shape so many years later. Absolutely amazing. We should probably make our way down, shouldn't we?
Yes, shall we go back down to the first floor again
I
then?
think so, yes.
There are other rooms below us, but there's construction work going on there, and so we won't see those today. There were some ceremonial rooms for the Scottish Rite, and offices and so forth.
Okay, back on the elevator.
Distracted.
It's easy to get distracted.
Easy to be distracted here.
Sure is.
It certainly is.
So much good stuff to look at.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can attest to the fact that that auditorium has incredible acoustics. I loved singing on top of the scaffolding out there. It sounds like I have a voice.
We
It's
should
amazing.
have experienced
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
the
amazing.
next tour.
The next year we'll do that.
Okay, we're back on the first floor again.
And let's quick look at the pool room.
Oh, these floors. Look at these floors.
Yes, now my understanding is that there were ladies in Wheeling who did the tile setting in sections, and then they were brought in section by section, both here and there's another room to our right. That's my understanding. It would be good if someone
Did some research on that,
had some
yes.
history of that, yeah.
Sure.
So this would be the pool room, and my guesstimate is that at that time they would not have played pool as we know as well. They would have played 8-ball, which is similar, a bigger table I presume, and only pockets.
Now, my understanding is there's one pool table and 2 billiard tables here. So I think the one on the right is the pool table with the pockets. And the center one and the one on the left are the billiard tables
No pockets.
that don't have pockets. It's a different game, but the same sort of skill set, which I don't have.
God bless you.
And of course, the lighting fixtures, I think, are phenomenal. Again, they look like something out of Harry Potter.
Yes. Yeah. And again, look at the structure above us. I mean, absolutely amazing. So you have a combination of two things. You've got the concrete casting of the actual floor, and then below it, you have a veneer of plaster and lath. So you can actually see the ribs of the plaster with a little bit of aging. But it's a combination, so it's not just the bottom of the concrete that's finished off flush. You really have the two different layers in there. Again, the level of casework and the condition that they're in, all a little bit darker now again than they were original. They would have been much, much lighter. We walk over across this room, which is a smaller dining room, I think for smaller events, and into a smaller kitchen and preparation area. Smaller kitchen here. I think that if you had the ladies' auxiliary or something meeting up in the ladies' lounge, it would have been intimidating to take a small group into the big lounge, and this area would probably, or the big dining room, so this area would probably be more suited. Again, more preparation area, I'm guessing a hood for deep fryer, etc., and then yet another meeting room with
Dishes.
the same kind of floor on the side edges.
Dish room.
So obviously a building that was designed for many groups meeting, maybe even simultaneously,
Look at
without
this.
disrupting each other.
There were young people's groups as well. There was D. Malay for boys.
Correct.
And Rainbow Girls for girls, high school age type
Yeah.
young people. And I know that they had events here as well.
Yeah. And if there's one symbol that would show you that there were more men involved here than women, as a last stop on the tour, I'll take you down to the men's bathroom.
Oh, good.
And show
It's
you-
something that women don't always get to
Too
see.
often.
Yes, we don't get to see a men's restroom often.
Yes.
It kind of reminds you of the one at the Capitol Theater. And I might have to go go downstairs.
I've never seen urinals like these.
Right.
Oh, there's the sign.
See the finger pointing out?
Yep.
This is the finger is pointing either way. The brass rail.
More marble.
This to the basement, which we'll tour on a later stage. Men's bathroom. Washroom, and this area is
And this is what's unique, the urinals.
Yes, the
a
most,
double-sided urinal.
most unique urinals I've ever seen.
Before
Not-
COVID.
Not that I've seen that many urinals.
Yeah.
Reminds me of old school buildings.
And I believe that there is an additional row of
Gone.
units that was actually removed. So this made provision for a lot of people in big groups. And I believe this will be restored again to be used again as a bathroom. And I think they do still have the original cubicles. They came up from the other side. They will go back and it will be pretty much restored the way it looked before. A very unique experience.
All right, I hate to end the tour in the bathroom, so let's go back up to the lobby.
How about that? I think so. Off to you. Even the stairs to the bathroom is solid. Look at that. There we go back into the lobby with an incredible rotunda.
And for the time being, at least for the next 5 years or so, the current organization of Scottish Rite will still have offices here.
Correct.
So there's an office there behind Sarl for the leader, whatever his title is, and for the secretary there as well. And my understanding is they'll also have access to one of the smaller ceremonial rooms
Correct.
during that time period, and the theater or the auditorium if they need it.
Well, in short, we have an incredible building, incredibly structurally well built, meant to house and move a lot of people through very comfortably and safely. And it is my understanding that that is again the vision of the building, and that will be made to use for us all in this community to make use of for many, many years to come.
So, thank you for joining us on today's virtual tour, and who knows what comes next. But thank you again, Becca and Sarl, and Joanne Sullivan for your videography work.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.